Dearest gentle listeners, you are listening to the Ladies Bridgerton, the talk of the ton. We are your effervescent hosts, your neighborhood-friendly Kiwi, Tash from Middle-earth, New Zealand.
And Patty, Regency romance enthusiast, whose current chapter of her story takes place in Ohio.
Settle down onto your favorite settee as we delve into the lives of the elite and illustrious ladies, lords, and royalty of the ton. This Bridgerton podcast is two friends talking romance, symbolism, Easter eggs, and deep diving into the connections of our favorite characters. This podcast covers both book and TV series and therefore will contain spoilers.
We have calmed our hearts and pulses after discussing Colin and Penelope's first kiss, so we can move into side stories. Your tangent queens are going to try and follow an outline to talk all things sides up to the celestial/constellation ball, because we don't know what it's called. We gave you the protein of the buffet last week with pollen, and now we discuss all those side dishes. Let's dig in.
I'm here for some potatoes in any shape or form. So let's start with the pineapple. Because pineapple, potato, same.
Yeah, you're going with alliteration. The pineapple potatoes.
Well, I was actually going with the diamond pineapple that the queen gets sent.
Oh, yeah. At the beginning, yeah.
That's why I said let's start with the pineapple. Okay, I don't even...
Let's make haste.
I made haste. And I just skipped the line.
You skipped the haste.
Now we must make haste into today's episode. And on to the pineapple.
And secretly, if the pineapple was upside down,
I mean,
have you ever heard about an upside down pineapple?
That is the theme of Benedict's. Yeah, it would make sense.
Swinging. He's swinging. But what's funny is at the Celestial Ball, and I'm going to say this because we just talked about Benedict and swinging and the pineapple. When she's trying to find who's doing the most work and who is like the person to catch her attention, she's watching him on the dance floor. Did you clock that?
No, because my brain was literally just thinking that a funny song that if they were going to go completely left field, and I should save this for the music episode, sorry, Kay, a really, really funny,
we keep apologizing to her.
A really funny song that they could put in that I don't think they ever will, but Honey, We're Going Down Swinging would be a good song, but I don't see them ever playing an emo pop punk anthem.
I put B-52's Love Shack was one of my songs of the day for, I think that whole party.
We're going down swinging. I'll be a number one with a bullet.
Loaded gun concept, cock it and pull it.
Oh, he certainly cocked it and pulled it.
Cocked and pulled it.
Well, that's inappropriately fitting.
But I now get to add another song to my playlist that's upbeat, because when I listen to it, like when I'm working and I listen to it, I do sing a lot because a lot of it is like power ballads and stuff.
That was so inappropriately on point.
Yes. Sugar, we're going down.
No, I meant the cocked it and pulled it.
No, but that's what I'm saying. The song is called Sugar, We're Going Down. So
yeah. Oh, on that note, let's talk about Sparkly.
He is a loaded gun concept if you think about it.
I need to wipe my eyes. Oh, we're starting off this.
Just took a sip when you said that. I almost spit all over my computer.
We're starting this episode out with a bang, aren't we?
Only because I have to finish a lyric. Like, I can't let it hang.
Oh, the queen is talking about sparkly pineapples.
Well, and she's talking about diamonds are not rare. Lady Danbury says diamonds are not rare. Like, everybody's sending you diamonds.
Yes, and that's actually a theme that is through this episode, because the queen is talking about how diamonds aren't rare. And she doesn't say it in this episode, but her favorite diamond is an emerald, which is exactly what Penelope dresses as. And one of the ladies...
Her favorite diamond is an emerald?
Yes. Just roll with it, okay? Just roll with it.
We are starting off awesome.
But one of the ladies...
Jewel.
One of the Lady Whistledown entries that goes... It's not at all put in this part, but I'm going to read it for this part. The truth is, that which some dismiss as common rock, time reveals to be precious stone. That is like exactly, Penelope. That is exactly Penelope. So many dismissed her as common rock. that she is precious stone. And this episode is very centric around Francesca being the precious stone, which is, I love. You sent me a meme, I'm going to say yesterday, but I also don't know what day of the week it is anymore. And it was when you miswrite the show so much that when people tried to piggyback off the success of Bridgerton, they put Francesca as the selling point, thinking that she was the main heroine of
for the
carriage
ride. Yes. And guess who made that meme? Me.
I'm like, oh, did you make it?
I made it. It was an ad on Facebook. It was an ad because, you know, I'm in all the Bridgerton groups. So all the ads I'm getting are all these different selling sites that are just throwing like Colin's face on something or Penelope's face or the sticker companies, the Tumblr companies. And this was a Tumblr company. And this was like they had Lady Whistledown tea service on a Tumblr was
That's going to be one really awkward carriage ride going home to mum. Hey, mum.
Right.
I know that you thought I thought that you I know that you thought that Benedict marrying Sophie was bad, but actually I may have just sullied my sister. Can we go live in the country together?
If they're gonna have any siblings get together, it's gonna be Benedict and Eloise because even they joke about it.
I know, like.
But yeah, like this ad came up, and
this isn't Japanese anime. You can't put siblings together, okay?
There is a lot of people out there, a lot of companies out there taking advantage of the popularity. And this was a Tumblr company, and they had a few that were cute, but this one popped up, and it was the Bridgerton Ultimate Carriage Ride or something. It said on the one side of the cup, and the other side of the cup is Francesca's face. Like, so I had to make the meme. I had to, and I'll post it in the group now that we've talked about it. But I had to make the meme of like when you edit. I mean, it's the editing because Francesca has just as much time. Almost, I think she actually comes out minutes wise. She comes out more, but percentage wise, because Penelope and Colin are in so many other scenes that are not necessarily about them, but you know what I mean? But that's percentage wise, they come out higher.
They've always been side characters as well as now they have to still fulfill those side character roles as well as the main character role.
Yeah.
Whereas and I'm going to give them because she's not friendly. She's not in all the scenes.
Yeah, and I said this beginning, she's boring. She's like white bread.
And we don't get
Hannah Dodd, you're a great actress, but
yeah,
Francesca as a character right now is very white bread.
And John, we don't get any backstory of him or any of his, history or anything because it's not his season. It's not his main story. That is reserved for Michaela, who we will get all the backstory for when presume it's her season. But yeah, like we just wanted to touch on the fact, even before we get into this, that from this episode forward, like even looking through my notes, there is as much Francesca centric scenes is really starting to take over from this episode, which is it is a little bit disappointing because, and I'm going to say it here because it is side story now, so I can talk about these things. Colin deserved more screen time, and
yes,
I didn't talk about it in the previous episode, but and that's what I love about our Bridgerton group and the other Bridgerton groups is the more I talk things out with people, the more I muse things out, it helps just trigger different thoughts myself. And I actually have a thought that and also because I'm rereading the book and listening to the audiobook all at once. Why settle for one when you can do the book, the audiobook, and the TV series all at once is, I think, a huge thing that they could have added in. And I think you read this and responded, and I think maybe Abby might have responded to it, but I haven't actually read that response yet.
Shout out to Abby.
Thanks, Abby, for helping trigger this thought, is that I think that they should have given Colin scenes where he was being open with Penelope. That was one of the things that we were missing, not just in his own character arc, but in building that relationship with Penelope. This season has been all about Penelope's character development, very little on Colin's. And they have Penelope talk about, oh, your writing, it is very good, without any back knowledge of the book. What is that saying to the viewers who have not read the book? That is not even throwaway comment. That is not. And you're an amazing writer. You can do anything with your life. You're a man. You can chase these dreams. You can be a writer. You can publish.
And in the book, she answers everything with publish your journal.
Yes.
You could and when in our last episode of The Kiss, when we read that section of the book, we start at him saying Eloise may not be Whistledown, but people can think she is just by spreading the gossip, right?
Yes.
You spread the gossip, it'll go. That's the power of the word.
Yes.
Like, we get none of that from Colin, and we need that, because even in that moment, she's like, you, as well as you write, you could be whistled out. She is always talking in the book. She's always talking about how his writing is good enough.
It wasn't just about the writing, though. It was about the fact that he was willing to be open with her about his vulnerabilities, something that he was unwilling to share with anyone else. And that is the difference between talking to your sister and talking to your partner, someone who you are willing to share things with that you are not willing. And we see this in Benedict's book. He opens up to Sophie in a way that he is surprised by, because he has never even allowed his family to know this. His family, who he loves and he thought he was really open with, but he's never even allowed his family into that side. I think that before we had the whole, or somewhere mixed in the whole marriage lessons, we should have had Colin being open with Penelope in a way that he has never been with anyone else. And it's surprising him of, oh, it's so easy to be open with you. It's so easy to share my thoughts and aspirations and fears and longings with you. And that is what makes them a partnership, because he is just as willing to share those things as she is. And this is where she would have come in and talked about, don't even get me started on the words. Your writing is very good. Penelope, you are a writer. You are an emotive writer. You are a wordsmith. And that is the words you're going to choose? Come on, girl.
The writing in the writer season is very lacking.
Give me chocolate for that sentence.
The fact that we have, your writing is very good. Your eyes shine when they look at me like two blue pools. Like, come on. If you're going to shine like something. Shine like sapphires. Shine like starlight. Shine like something.
I don't care how much of a, what is the term when it's something that's used over and over again?
Cliche.
Thank you. Cliche. I don't care if it's cliche. A cliche is better than pool.
Yes. Give me something that is, I mean, even if they'd have picked a different word for blue, just change. Cerulean pools.
It should have been a descriptive.
More descriptive. And sorry, I
sent you the water. The waters of the beaches in Cyprus are the exact color of her eyes. You cannot tell me that he went to those waters where he's writing to her these essential love letters, declarations of like, this is what I'm doing, but I'm you, because I'm looking at this water and it reminds me of your eyes. Like,
that's where
tell me for a second that he wasn't inspired.
That's where I think we lost. That's okay. I want to use a euphemism here. It's a bit sweary. That's where they shit the bed. Okay. Because we heard so much about these letters he wrote the second time around. This is the second summer after he was Colin blocked by Eloise all through season 2. And he could never get enough time alone with Penelope to really have any kind of real conversation with her. He finally tells her she's special. And then he's writing her, and then she's not writing him. And then he's writing her and she's not writing him back. I want those letters. I want to know what he said, because I guarantee you they were more love lettery than the summer before, because he thought they had an understanding. And, or even the journal. Like, I'm still going through the journals, and I really do believe he was talking about Penelope in one. And that was, I mean, that's this episode. So, I think the last line of the second page of that journal is, how eager I am to soon head home. She, empty of company, from her window watches. Like, I think he's writing out a wish to come home, and her waiting for him, still looking out the window. Like, she doesn't know when he's coming home, so why would she be at the window? But he knows, he's acknowledging she's always looking out the window at him, for him. Like, that's his wish and belief. It is true. We know it's true. But I think for him, he's hoping and wishing, like, he wants her to be watching out the window for him. He wants her to be waiting for him. And we have that potentially. I mean, and now granted, these are blurry journals, and I've done my utmost to look at the clearer writings to piece together shapes of letters and combinations and things like that to come up with this. And this is something that, and I mean, I want to say you can ask Tosh, but I thought it was something else up to the point where I realized the last word was watches. And I'm like, so then I'm piecing it backwards. It is. So I could be completely wrong. And I could be wanting it to say that, but I don't think I am. I've been working on this for a month now. But yeah, like that's what we're missing. We're missing those letters. We're missing journals. We're missing the moment where he brings her his journal and says, here, because what we get is him wanting to give her something finished so bad. Or cut out all the embarrassing stuff because he's very nervous about his previous experience, that he immediately starts editing it into a manuscript, doesn't want to hand it to her the way it is. Doesn't want to hand himself to her the way he is. But this is sides. But we're missing that. We're missing journals. We're missing letters. We are missing
them being a partnership.
Yeah. Team. We are missing his thoughts and feelings over that summer. We know she was mad. We don't know what he was feeling, how he was feeling. We just know he came home quick. He came home before he was expected.
And the thing is in the book, half of this book is from his perspective. What perspective do we get from him in at least the 4 episodes? The first 4 episodes, what do we get? Brothel scenes? That's not a perspective.
No, the perspective we get that it's his perspective is never fully clear. We don't hear another word about his purpose that he is lamented in season 1 and season 2. We know that his conversation at the wedding in season 2, when she talks about her purpose, he says, what can possibly live up to that? Because what does Colin Bridgerton believe a woman's purpose is in the way he grew up? Marriage. Her purpose that's going to make her clever and witty and brave and get her out from under her mother's purview is going to be a man. And he's like, how can I live up to that? Because his purpose to himself is he names 2 purposes. He says, Anthony and Benedict have their purpose, like they know what their purpose is. Anthony's getting married. Married can be a man's purpose. Having a family, being a dad, all that. Benedict has his artistic pursuit. Colin has no clue. And she's telling him, you have plenty of time. We needed those letters. We needed to know what he was doing. None of us believe the Contessa's real. So he just went off to learn how to be fake. Like they literally gave him nothing.
Well, I've changed my mind on I think she is real, but I think it is massively
well, as I was reading the journal that he was rewriting and he's talking about the young woman, everybody thinks he's talking about Penn at the debut, but he's not. He is talking about a young woman that he has gone to these museums and gardens every day. And he has spent entire afternoons there, he says. And he happens upon this young woman who is in the company of her mother. He's just watching her watch everything, see everything, how her head turns like she's playing a musical instrument. And she is just, because he's seen these things every day now, he is now observing and watching other people enjoy them for his enjoyment. And so it's not Penn at the debut. It's literally him having been doing something daily just to pass the time. He's now observing other people enjoying it to get his enjoyment out of it. And he writes a whole thing about her, and she reminds him of home and family because she reminds him of the curiosity of Gregory. She reminds him of Benedict. All of that's in there. So it's just about him missing home, bored on his travels.
The part that I was going to say, and I've just recorded what it was, is I've changed my mind about the Contessa, and I don't believe that he isn't real anymore. I just think that she was exaggerated the role that she plays, because Luke Newton does an interview where he talks about the ring that she gave him and how the relationship that they had. So she is obviously real if Luke Newton about, his travel with this married, widowed lady. But now I know that she's widowed. That changes the thing a little bit more as well, because now it's not like a virgin debut or anything like that. Well, not, you know what I mean?
I haven't seen that interview. You got to share that with me.
Because
it sounds like that's more of his backstory that he created. He did a lot of creating Colin's backstory to know how to play Colin.
We weren't as absolutely crazy about watching interviews before season 3 came out. So I wondered whether this interview comes out before season 3 came out. That's why. But someone had said in our group chat, maybe ask Kay, she might have an idea. There is an interview somewhere where he discusses, it's a behind the scenes footage where he discusses the ring that he's wearing and that it was given to him by this Contessa, and he does wear that ring. So obviously that's what makes me believe this interview.
Yeah, but it doesn't mean she was somebody, Because, like, in this journal where he's talking about this young girl and she's in the company of her mother, I mean, that mother could have been the Contessa.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, so and she's honestly sounds more like I found me a travel buddy than necessarily and he, but you know what I mean, exaggerating, because there's no way that Colin
I think he's
would
exaggerated what their relationship was. It might have been quite platonic, it could have been mentorship of sorts, and I think he's just exaggerated to the men more on the sexual nature of it in order to just kind of fit in with them at the time.
Yeah, to get them to shut up, really. Like, I'll give you a little bit. He's a writer. He's making up.
Let's get back to our episode layout. We're 20 minutes in and we haven't even gotten like that was the biggest tangent I think we've ever been on. I mean, it's all Bridgerton related. It's all pivotal information. It's just done out of the layout that we anticipated.
Because Penn is Lady Whistledown and Lady Whistledown is the narrator, we get a lot more Penn. And this episode too, like the side stories are chopped in. I almost feel like it's an oatmeal raisin cookie, and you have this great, pollen scene, and then all of a sudden you bite a raisin.
Yeah. So let's talk about Lady Whistledown, seeing as you've just brought her up, because I love that Penelope is starting to use Lady Whistledown for her own devices for the first time. Well, I mean, she does use Lady Whistledown for the whole Marina situation and the Eloise situation, but this is the first time she's done it purely for selfish means for herself. And it goes, "Gentle reader, it is said that fools rush to judge while the wise watch and wait. Years ago, Miss Henderson, once thought to be on the shelf, triumphed over many a deb to marry Earl Fraser. Miss Dunham had been doomed to spinsterhood until she married Baron Ely, and Miss Katani Sharma, at the ripe age of 26, still managed to capture the heart of none other than the Viscount Bridgerton. AKA, boys, Lady Whistledown is open for the taking."
Yeah, like she's praising these women that took a while on the marriage mart to find their place.
And she's challenging them. Don't be a simpleton who's following the crowd. Don't just look at what's pretty and shiny in front of you like a sparkler. Maybe turn over the rock to find out whether it's a precious stone. I also
think, like, because you said she's using Lady Whistledown for her own devices. I also see it, as we saw in the first episode, she's kind of using it like Colin having a journal. Right? She didn't have Colin to write to either. She chose not to write to him. So Lady Whistledown changed for her. Lady Whistledown became her best friend, even though it is her. It became her best friend, the person she confided in. She didn't have Eloise. She didn't have Colin. So we're seeing more of her writing about herself in a way that she would absolutely write in a journal. I can do this. I can find a husband. Kate did it, Miss Dunham did it, right? So she's almost still in letter form to the ton. She's writing her own journal entries and she's expressing her insecurities in a way that's like affirmations.
Well, and this is the part that she then reads out as we get to the Ray Varley Penelope scene, and then it transitions to the Mondrich scene, and it kind of fits both. "The truth is, that which some dismiss as common rock, time reveals to be precious stone. A fact the new Baron of Kent and his family are learning this very week." So we get one of the other themes in this scene here. We've talked a little bit about it in Penelope and Colin's episode, but we did want to touch on it again so we can talk about the theming of it. Ray and Varley are dressing Penelope in her new outfit, and although Ray dressed Penelope for the Danbury Ball for the first time, we all kind of know that dress was like her coming out at 1,000 watts rather than the 100 she should be in. You don't want to be too blinding.
She didn't throw a presentation walk. She tried to throw a parade.
She was a supernova. She wanted to be a star, and she came out of the supernova and exploded. It was too big. It is absolutely beautiful, but I think this is the first time we see her dressing more to her true theme, like something that fits her style, her romanticism.
The other one was my favorite dress.
The other one was very siren. This is very soft, subtle, beauty, princess kind of vibes. And so Varley compliments Penelope and says, "I'm so glad that your mum made you get rid of these dresses. The looking glass doesn't lie." Now, Jess Brownell has talked about the looking glass, how many scenes we have have with mirrors in this season. And so we're going to make
There's several in this episode.
There's several in this episode. So we want to talk about this part now, even though we've already discussed it a little bit, just to bring up the looking glass comment, because there are going to be many scenes that we'll discuss later in this episode and subsequent episodes that talk about the looking glass. Because upon my first watch, there was only a few scenes in the season that I saw Penelope in front of the glass. But then when I started looking at scenes that didn't necessarily weren't super
in
obvious
front of it,
but you could see people, you could see a mirror in the scene and you can see the person reflecting, I thought, oh, this is what Jess Brownell is talking about. They are not as obvious, but if you really look for them, there's certain very important scenes that have different cast members, characters, whoever you want to say, standing in front of mirrors as important things are being said. And that is times where the looking glass does not lie. Listen to what is being said while those characters are standing in front of the mirrors. Let's go on to the Mondrich family.
Now, speaking of mirrors, that's later, but yeah, there's one of the looking glass does not lie later.
Yes. Yes. So as the Lady Whistledown article is being read out, we have the Mondrich family being welcomed to their new estate by their servant. And the Mondrich family, like Alice, is just uncomfortable. Don't touch anything. She is afraid they're going to get thrown out. And if they touch anything or break anything, they can't replace it because they cannot afford her. So she does not believe for a second that this is real. And she is in denial and she's anxious and nothing is quite fitting.
Yeah. I mean, it's like those houses back then. Well, in those houses now, you just got to pay money. But back then, when there was a home and the main occupants weren't there, a lot of times they would allow the housekeepers to let people come through and look at them. We see that in Pride and Prejudice. Yeah. Lizzie and her aunt and uncle actually walk through Pemberley because they believe that Mr. Darcy's not there. And those houses are treated like museums because the people would accumulate their wealth in objects and things, art, book. That's why they get to walk through that library in episode 3. That's why we had the art collection in season 1. These people collect this stuff and their home becomes a museum ultimately. So she's walking through it very much like she's a guest, like she doesn't live there.
And then they get up to the top floor where they get not top floor because servants' quarters are on the top floor, but their floor, the main family quarters. And they realize that they are being given separate quarters. Now, even by today's standards, we share, generally speaking, I would say the nuclear family, typically speaking, share a bed. And that is because we're all poor, apparently, because back then, only poor people would share a bed and a bedroom because when you were wealthy enough, you would each have your own room, your own wardrobes, your own space to do whatever. And then you would meet in one of the bedrooms.
The male would come to the female's bedroom.
For coitus, and then would retire back to their own room. And so Will and Alice, who have grown up in a very different living situation, are not accustomed and are quite disgruntled at this arrangement.
Well, and it's side stories play into the main story. So it's important here to note they're finding out for the first time that the elite, the titled families, the families that marriage is usually not for love. It's a contract. It's a business transaction. They have separate bedrooms. This is important because it plays into Colin's arc. Because I think so many people have discussed like him being so mad at Penelope. He's so mad at Penelope. But we know
he can't bring himself to set up a whole separate bedroom. He still wants to be in her hemisphere.
Yes, they have one bedroom in a home where there are multiple. Like there's at least a guest room somewhere. But he sleeps.
Daphne separates herself and goes to her own room.
Yeah, they had separate quarters when they were angry.
If you want to make this a business arrangement, let's make it a business arrangement. Separate room.
Right. Colin never even set up that house with a separate room. Even if it was only just an apartment, because we know it's the original bachelor's apartment, but they never state that really. So it's like they're almost trying to play it off like it's a different house. Their sitting room that they have outside of their bedroom would have been the second bedroom in a smaller home, and it would have been set up as a bedroom, but they have it set up like a sitting room. They only have one bedroom for themselves because he loves her. He knows she loves him, and they are going to have a loving together. We're not sleeping apart marriage. So when he sleeps on any sofa, because they have a separate guest drawing room downstairs, because you see her leave and go down to meet Cressida, then you see her and her mother leave and go back up to her sitting room outside of her bedroom. They have a separate space for guests with what looks to be a bigger couch, actually. But he sleeps on that tiny settee in their sitting room with his long legs hanging off like around the armrest on the other side. You see that the best the morning of Francesca's wedding when she comes out. His legs are curled around the armrest like he doesn't fit on that settee, but he's choosing to sleep there because he cannot imagine being any farther away from her. And that's why the Mondrichs, we get this scene where they're learning this is just how it's done, because that has to help us understand how important it is that he's sleeping on that sofa, because he feels separate, but he can't get that separate.
Yeah.
He won't do it.
And then we jump over to the Featherington household where Portia is reading Lady Whistledown and learning of the Mondrick status, and she is disgruntled.
Okay, I know you're saving Whistledown for Whistledown, but read this one because it's important to Portia.
Fine.
It's actually reason number 229 of why Portia Featherington should have known her daughter was Lady Whistledown.
Okay, so I'll read the whole part out because they kind of go together. The truth is, that which some dismiss as common rock, time reveals to be precious stone, a fact that the new Baron of Kent and his family are learning this very week. Now, that is the part that Portia just read, which is making her freak out. And then, at other times, what appears to be priceless, under pressure, shatters like glass. Jack Featherington.
Ding, 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 ding. Who was in the room when Colin Bridgerton broke the ruby necklace and said it was glass? Nobody else knows. Only 4 people. One of them is Gown. Okay, he bolted. He's not Lady Whistledown. Okay, one of those is Portia Featherington herself.
Wouldn't that have been the coup of the season if Jack Featherington was Lady Whistledown?
But what I'm saying is, in that moment, reading that, Portia should have been like,
I mean, I don't think Portia's one to read between the lines, but she should have, because this was
that was specific.
It was glaringly right in front of her. But
she should have at least been like,
Portia is cunning.
Colin Bridgerton.
But I don't know that I would call her intelligent. She is cunning. She is manipulative, but she's not astute because she is so self-centered that she does not look outside of anything out of her own bubble. So she
does see them pass the nose on her face. Well, and that's like Eloise. That's why Eloise has no clue that Colin and Penelope love each other, because she doesn't see past the nose on her own face.
When did it begin? Yeah, well, have you got time?
Girlfriend, did you hear us last year how frustrated we were that you kept interrupting? I mean, come on.
Yeah. So Portia is reading about the new Mondrick family, and she has the fear because she's looking at this family who come from, in her mind, nothing, who have now been given title, and she is thinking, oh, I've only just been given title, like somewhat recently, and now with my husband passing, with Jack out of the picture, with his false documents, I'm in a very precarious situation. And
she's worried about what Dundas is going to uncover, and if she's lost the title and causes it to go to somebody she deems less than worthy, because she knows
she cannot fathom it going to the son of a baker. Starts throwing rolls at Portia.
Well, no offense, like right now, the only person in line, if they did keep it kind of within the family, they could go to Marina and give it to her son. Even if her son is in line because of Sir Philip marrying her.
Well, I don't believe that Marina is actually related to them at all. I think that was just
a ruse.
I think that was Lord Featherington's excuse as to why she was in the house. And I think she was just the daughter of someone who he owed money to.
He owed money.
And I think it was just made up. But for argument's sake, we'll just pretend. But
the thing is
but Walter
most
Dundas
people go on your word with that.
But Walter Dundas said we can find no living relatives, and he is looking extensively. So I think if she were actually biologically related, it would have gone to him, or even Marina's dad.
But when he comes back, he says, I didn't exactly find what I was looking for, but I found something that's good enough. I think he got tired of looking, and he figured they're just going to give, because I almost feel like, because the queen can give a title to anyone. She can elevate anyone. And he just gave a title to a boxer, and he's a Weasley little dude. And he made the comment about your home is beautiful. I almost feel like he purposely wanted to find something, and he's going to try and, like, because of his years of service, the queen's going to elevate him and give him a title. You know, he kind of gives me that vibe.
Yeah, so Penelope walks into the room at this moment and tells her mum that she's going to go get some fresh air on Rodden Road with Ray. And Portia completely dismisses her. Can't you see that we're busy in here?
Well,
as if Penelope is not about to solve her own problem by going out and getting herself Mr. Color Bridgerton and bearing the next heir. Pay attention, Portia. Pay attention.
Right. And what I love in this moment, like, they're busy throwing grapes at each other.
Yes.
But if you go
I was
back
waiting to for he's not Lords, for Mr. Finch to choke on a grape.
But no, the sweetest little moment, when they're coming into the scene and you have the aerial shot from the ceiling, as she's starting to read that Lady Whistledown's being read. If you look at the sofas with the couple sitting there, Finch and Philippa are holding hands on the back of the sofa. And it's adorable.
Philippa's dress has butterflies.
Like, she got a love match. Like, that was an absolute love match. And Finchy loves her. And they're in love and holding. They hold hands about as much as Colin and Penn do. Honestly, if you catch them.
If you can't bond over your favorite cheeses, what can you bond over?
I know. I mean, you got to bond over food.
Colin certainly does. Okay, let's move along to BCE. Before Colin expires, I don't know. Before Colin expires, waiting for this girl to realize she loves her. They love each other. Okay. So because Penelope has just mentioned going out to Rodden Road, we're
backtracking.
Yeah. No, because Penelope says that she's going to Rodden Road.
No, I mean from the last the pod. We already discussed this, but we were talking about some things we missed.
Yes.
We're putting them back in as side story because there's some things.
Yeah. So because we are Queens of the podcast and we are tangent queens, we sometimes miss our own information. And it's just
we're the queens. We make the rules.
We make the rules. You will listen to our tangents. I think it's just that no matter how many times I've watched this, sometimes all it takes is watching it and then messaging with someone like yourself or in the group, or someone will post something, or I'll see an interview. There is always something that triggers new theories, new thoughts, like noticing different things, and it all just culminates together. So, I mean, sometimes we're going to.
And we said early on, if we got new information, we would give it.
So we have Benedict, Colin, and Eloise, BCE, because at this point, there are so many siblings that I've just acronymed them all into groups of who's hanging out together. So BCE are promenading down Rodden Road, about to bump into Penelope-ish, and they're all jesting together. And we have talked about this in the previous episode, but I did want to pick up on a few things. Benedict was he was kind of digging at his sister in such a brotherly way. Why is it that you wear bows and frills and flounces, but you don't
carry a fan?
Yeah. But don't carry a fan? Why is it that you're now smug with Cressida, but aren't making an effort to make friends with the other debutantes? And then Eloise says, would you like to watch grass grow? As in, watching grass grow would be more interesting than spending time with these mindless debutantes. But the thing that made me laugh, and the reason I wanted to bring this up, we've got Colin on the Sprite watching the blades of grass. We've got
one blade of grass. One
blade of grass. We've got Penelope in her absolute height of debutante wooing, discussing, I like grass.
I love grass.
I like grass. And then we've got Eloise being like, would you like to watch grass grow? Like, it's so funny that these three, they're not even the season, they're all so separated by their different angst that they're going through, that they're all like, hey, want to talk about grass?
Well, and even Colin's talk about grass and Penelope's talk about grass are both trying to be like, I love grass, right? I was focused on one blade of grass. But Eloise, who is not cool with that whole connection, I just find that funny where she's like, ugh, do you want to watch grass grow? Ew. Do I really want to watch my brother and my best friend love each other? Kind of ew. No. Ew.
And then it's at this moment when she says that Colin I spies Penelope and is like, all right, I'm outies, my gal's here, you guys are losers, and it just
deuces. But I love, and I just want to bring up, because I didn't bring this up the last time, like if you watch him walk towards her, like he is walking directly where she is going to end up. Like he's clocking her trajectory to the point where at the last second he has to like veer to the side
so he doesn't just clock into her.
he was gonna tackle that girl, like seriously.
But
it's so subtle. I love the little moments like that, though. Like he was just walking straight forward, like, oh wait, she's here already.
But Eloise sees, like, come on, Eloise, open your eyes. They are not just for looking; they are for seeing. Come on,
they were for understanding. Get the data to your brain, girlfriend.
Like I'm sure your spinal cord is working. It is connecting.
Well, she says, like, let's go talk to them. I need to borrow a fan because it's gonna get warm. I think it's gonna get warm. Yeah, it is. Put two and two together.
I read that differently. I know that you see the scene a little bit differently, but Eloise sees Colin going up to Penelope, and as much as Eloise is mad at Penelope for being Lady Whistledown, she still misses Penelope. Her heart feels empty, and so she's going to go and do exactly what Colin did on his travels, and she is going to try and fill the place of Penelope with anyone. And so she's like, okay, well, I can't see Cressida around, so I'm going to fill the space of Penelope with mindless debutantes. Like, mindless debutantes are surely better than sitting here and wallowing in my pity of missing Penelope.
That was her brothel scene.
Yeah. Can I have your fan?
And of course, so Benedict walked with her.
Yes.
Now, but that was Benedict. Like Benedict's the one that Colin said, you know, didn't you promise Anthony you were going to try with this season? And he's like, ugh. So, but since Eloise was trying, he decided to try too. They could do it together. And that's very reminiscent of season 2 when she needed to walk into the dance and she kind of held back and was afraid to do it. And he was like, come with me, I'll go. And, you know, they're both two rebels out in society.
This isn't the scene at all, but I do love are you escorting me tonight? And he's like, no, I'm just hiding behind you.
Yeah, I'm using you as a shield.
And it reminded me of when in a future, the next episode potentially, where Eloise hides behind Benedict when Lord Carmarthen comes. Gregory is even funnier. Yeah,
because Gregory's shorter.
Uses like the siblings use their siblings as human shields against the season.
Well, like, and what was Gregory gonna do if Kilmartin was there for her? Like. Love him instead of me. Like, look at how cute Gregory is. Like, what was that about? That's so funny though. Like, yeah, and that's what siblings are good for. They're either like standing by your side and they're bolstering you and being your wingman, so to speak, or they're your shield. Like, whatever.
My brother and I used to fight violently as kids, and I would absolutely be his punching bag. But the second that I went to him on the school playground and said, hey, this kid's threatening me, it was like, only I hit my sister, back off.
Right. It's like, you're not allowed to make fun of my sister. That's my job. Like,
she's my loser.
Seriously, my family was the same way. Like, my two brothers fought. They were very close in age. They fought really bad. We were a blended family. So one came from one first marriage, one came from the other. They were literally 28 days apart, but they fought a lot. Mm-hmm. But at school, it was like, oh, you're messing with my brother? Fights.
Yeah.
Like, it kind of like how I see the Bridgerton bros. Like, they can pick on Colin, but if anybody else would try and mess with Colin, it would be a brawl up in there.
Oh, yeah.
It would be the Bridgerton bros are together.
So our next scene we have is Colin and Penelope promenading, but we've already covered this part. So we will move along to the next scene that takes place, which is Violet, Lady Danbury, and Francesca sharing tea, along with Hyacinth, just putting her little Hyacinth hijinks into it, because why not?
She wants to be the sparkler. Like, anybody can be the sparkler.
I think that the Queen would adore Hyacinth because she reminds her of that spiky, spunky kind of attitude. So I do wonder whether she will be a diamond of her own season.
Her season, she'd be the incomparable. Yeah, I think so. I think
so.
She will.
So we've got Lady Danbury, and this is one of the times where like they are just being straight up meddling mamas, and Francesca is like, oh no, I can manage my mum, but I can't manage Lady Danbury. Like, she is a force of her own. Like, I can do one at a time, not both. And that's
And
when
she
she has
knows.
to, and she's got to enlist Eloise to like meddle.
Yeah. And she knows, like, she managed her mama because she acted like she didn't care about the season.
Mhm.
So her mama would be, so Violet would be focused on her just finding a suitor because she just acted so nonchalant because she did not want to be noticed.
Violet did not want her to find a suitor. She wanted her to find love.
Yeah. But what I'm saying is, like, she acted so nonchalant about the season and she like played it off that it's not important to her. It's very important to her. She wants to find a husband so she can make a home, so she can have peace. But she doesn't want the queen's attention. She doesn't want all eyes on her. Well, she wants to do it her way. But Danbury wants the Bridgertons to be the sparklers all the time.
Well, I'm surprised that Violet actually encourages it, because she knows that when the queen gets involved, it pushes her children to make decisions based on social climbing rather than for love. And it nearly ended in absolute ruin for Anthony. He was so focused that he needed the sparkle of the diamond that he nearly made an absolutely catastrophic mistake. So I'm actually surprised that Violet is encouraging Lady Danbury to push Francesca towards trying to claim the diamond status, because then Violet has to compete with the queen, whose rule. You see how anxious Violet gets in future episodes when she's got to go and approach the queen about the John and Francesca joining.
I think that's just an excuse because she doesn't understand her own feelings, kind of similar to her son.
But also, I think that is a very real fear. You do not defy the queen. It can go very badly for you. You can be outcast from society. You can lose her favor, and that could affect her future children.
This is the most understanding iteration of Queen Charlotte in history. Mm-hmm. I was almost going to say the word I say all the time. Mm-hmm. She just gives in. She's not sending anyone to Australia. She hasn't yet. She's not put anyone in jail. And if you look at history,
please,
people were going to jail.
Don't send us Fife. We don't want him. You can keep him.
Send Fife to Australia.
Hey, don't you do that to me.
I didn't say New Zealand. I said Australia.
I still have all my family. It's still my home.
But no, she saved Anthony and Kate in the end by saying that she made the choice that they could be together, that Edwina ended the betrothal. She saved them. She let Daphne and Simon marry, even though they fooled everybody because of their speech. You know, like, she caved on Penn as Lady Whistledown.
I think she truly loves love. She hides it behind.
So too. Well, and we got our meddlers. I think Lady Danbury, Violet, and the Queen are all the meddlers. And I think they are all meddling in a way. Lady Danbury is the only one. Lady Danbury. Well, I'm talking about
the biggest queen of all.
Meddling in the love lives.
Yeah.
And mostly it's Violet and the Queen are absolutely, there I go. They are both trying to help and meddle in a way that they believe their love, the way their love happened, is the way love happens. They don't understand there's multiple iterations. There's multiple forms, there's multiple kinds. Like Violet always says, there's either obligation, kind of, or love. She doesn't understand. And I think that's why Lord Anderson's so good for her, because his first love was a slow burn. Like they were very much arranged. And then he grew to love her.
Yeah.
And that helped her to understand Francesca, I think. But she's meddling with all her kids, wanting them to have the love she had. Queen Charlotte is coming into it, wanting to give love the way she experienced it, which was an arranged marriage with someone who would elevate them in society, and they could grow to love each other over time, because that's what her and George have.
Yeah.
And then Lady Danbury did not have love with her husband at all. That was very much an arrangement. She found love that was forbidden, that she couldn't have. So I think she's a little more open to find love however you can get it. But she knows that for them to have their best chance, they have to be recognized by the Queen so that other people look at them. So that's her goal. So I think we're seeing them very much play out their belief systems in their meddling.
Yeah.
And this season, hopefully, we don't know until next season, and we see what the Queen does when she chooses whomever. I hope God she chooses Benedict.
I would love that. He is such a sparkler.
She is looking at him at that ball. I'm telling you. And I think that's how she's going to flip the script. And I think that's why they had her in the promo with Luke Thompson. Golden Luke Thompson did the promo for season 3. They're never in scenes together. And I think season 4, she's naming him.
Oh, I love it. He's such a sparkler. I'm so here for that. Please,
I think it would be amazing. I think can you imagine Penn as Penelope Bridgerton? Now she's writing the column as Penelope Bridgerton, getting to tell the Ton that the Queen chose a man who is
and because Benedict is all about flipping the script from what did I just say? Flipping the script.
Flipping the script.
Better pick the girl who's had 2 coffees in a day. I don't usually, but I'm on struggle town of tiredness today, so there may be some Freudian slips going on.
We'll make that a t-shirt. We're gonna flip the script.
Little scratch. Benedict flips the script, and he does what society doesn't expect him to do, and I love that. It's the same with Lady Tilly taking the lead in the dance. That if anyone had clocked that while they were actually doing it, I haven't looked at the background of the images of those yet, but I do want to, because if anyone had actually noticed that, like, they would have been like, clutch my pearls, a lady is leading the dance.
Well, and let's go reason number 542 why people should have known Penelope was because that was a big ball for her, and that never got mentioned. Never got mentioned. And I don't come at me, people who say it's a 6-page thing and there's more stuff.
That's why the Queen starts clocking on, because in this season, Penelope really starts to drop the ball of not noticing things that the Queen herself, because the Queen,
she's got a lot going on.
The Queen is overlooking this whole thing. She is seeing everything that's going on. So she's like, if I'm clocking these things and Lady Whistledown isn't, what's going on in her personal life that she is now missing these major pivotal moments? She's no longer a wallflower. She's no longer seeing it all. So who is she? And this is what starts giving her the juices to start thinking, oh, I can maybe catch her now.
Well, and when she clocks Benedict on the dance floor, he's dancing with Miss Stowell at that ball. So she's starting to notice Benedict.
Well, I'm not up that yet. And I do have that part coming up.
Yeah, being something, whatever he is, that he caught her eye.
Yeah.
So
let's jump over to the Featherington house, where this probably takes place whilst Penelope is promenading on Rodden Road with Colin, because this episode jumps back and forward. But if you look at the timeline of it, I would say this takes place directly after Penelope leaves the Featherington house, but it jumps over, has a few scenes, and then jumps back to it.
Well, because we see the Mondrichs being touring their house after some things already happened, but they arrive at their house at the end of episode 1. So there's definitely some jumping.
The editing of this episode specifically is quite choppy, and so I apologize if it is hard to keep up with, but I will try to say, okay, this is the part of the scene that we're up to, that we're reading about, because this episode, it's too hard to just go, okay, let's talk about the Featheringtons in this episode, let's talk about these people in this episode, because it does jump forward and backwards in the timeline of this episode quite a bit. So we're just going in
we're going in scene order, not time chronological.
Yeah, we're going in scene order of how it plays out this episode. So Portia, Prudence, and Philippa, obviously the Dankworth brothers, the Featherington bros, have left the estate. Who knows why? I don't know what they have to go do. Polish shoes, get grape seeds out of their teeth.
They went down to the kitchen for some food,
some cheese.
Yeah.
Mr. Dankworth, what's your favorite cheese? Mine's this. Let's go have a look what they have. I love him. I love her. So
I wonder if Farley made potatoes.
So Prudence and Philippa are fighting over the changes that they are going to be making to the estate once they are the mama to the heir. Philippa is talking about how she wants to replace everything and get rid of Varley, and we've been interviewing new housekeepers and curtains and all the rest of it. And Portia jumps on this as, okay, it's time to have the talk with my daughters. How's your sex life coming along? Like,
the necessary activities.
But I do love that Portia has these conversations. For as many faults as she has, at least she is giving her daughter more of an education than Violet, who very much let Daphne down in the first season. So I do like that for the issues that Portia has. Okay, go.
This is late.
It is late. It's a year and a half late. And poor
Philippa's been married for poor Mr. Finch.
He's like a year and a half deep. That dude has got some serious self-restraint. He
is where Colin's the king of consent. He's the god of consent. He's the Zeus of consent because he's gone a year and a half, not even trying to educate his wife. Although the joke is that, I mean, he jokes that he's the king of consent. But the joke is that he didn't know either.
Well, so even the actress
Harriet Keynes.
Thank you, Harriet Keynes. Yes. So even Harriet Keynes said she believes that Mr. Finch did know, Albion does know, but that he was waiting for her to expressly say that she was ready.
That she wanted it.
She wanted it.
I saw that interview because she said, do you know? Well, she said, do you know what? And I don't know.
And you know name. What though? This season
the actor that plays Finch is the one who told her, like, Finch was just too afraid to ask. He was waiting for her to say she wanted it.
Sweet, simple, but sweet.
Yes,
he is simple
Finch,
sugar.
Yeah, Finch is the best.
And then
exactly what Philippa needed.
And then we've got Prudence, who does not care to have her hair flattened. And she explains to her mum that yes, they have partaken in the required activities once on their wedding night, and I did not enjoy it.
Well, she didn't say she doesn't enjoy it.
No,
there.
Not there.
That's where she's like, I want to be off showing off my husband. And anyway, that's her line. Like where Philippa's line later is the inserts himself. This is, it'll flatten my hair. I love it. Like she's so spoiled, whiny.
Because it seems like a line that would actually come from Philippa, but it's Prudence.
And what's funny is Philippa gives her that look like, you haven't figured out a way to do it that it doesn't mess up your hair. Mm-hmm. And when they show
we see her on top.
She's on top. She's like, I ain't messing up my hair. I think that's how we know that Philippa and Penelope are sisters. Like we
because they both like to ride their husbands.
They both like to ride their husbands. And Philippa starts looking at the books, family. Because she's always told she was stupid. She didn't look at the books. And that's why she's the one who wanted the books gone, because she didn't want to be reminded that she's stupid, not that she could just open up a book and read it. But we see her arc as coming to realize she's not stupid. She's not related to stupid people. And her daughter has a chance of being smart and independent and everything. Like she really has developed a love and an admiration for her sister. But we start seeing ways I haven't clocked so many ways that Prudence is like Penelope, except for their snipiness. Like their barbs to each other are great, but yeah, go ahead.
So this is a tangent, but it does fit the narrative of the Featherington family. So I was on it was a video that someone posted the other day, and it was about how men and women get different feeds kind of fed to them on Facebook. You know, it goes by the algorithm. And this girl posted a video saying that she opened up a video and she sent it to her partner, and she goes, read the comments. And he reads the comments and he goes, are you sure this is what you meant to send to me? And he screenshots the comments, the top comments that he sees, and sends it to her. And it's all completely misogynistic. Whereas what she got was completely equality, feminism, everything. He got misogynistic. And I mean, we won't even get into why his feed is giving him misogyny as opposed to her. Mm-hmm. But that is, it's not just a Facebook thing. Life gives you that algorithm as well. When you are putting negativity into the world, you're going to get negative back. When you are putting out positivity towards you. All Philippa has ever seen is that negativity in her family, so that is all she knows. She has been told her whole life that reading makes you unattractive to males. All she's ever been taught is that you are supposed to be attractive to males. Therefore, reading bad. Penelope does not care to be attractive to males if it means being stupid. And it takes until Portia says, hey, actually, we're not going to be mean to your sister anymore, that they start realizing, hey, we don't have to be cruel to each other all the time. And when we're not encouraged to be cruel to each other all the time, and we start saying positive things, we realize how good it makes us feel. And they start resolving that rift, and they start seeing the good in each other that they never had because the algorithm wasn't giving it. There's my tangent for the day.
Well, yeah, because Prudence's whole thing with Penelope all 3 seasons was she was the one who put down her look out of anyone, even out of the ton. The only person who ever mentioned Penelope's look in truly a negative fashion was Prudence. And in the end, she tells her she was a very fine bride and she cried at her wedding.
Ironic, because I would say that she is not the most attractive of the siblings. She's beautiful, but the other two are also beautiful.
I think that Prudence feels Penelope's beauty is different.
Yes.
And I think that Prudence knows and understands what parts of her features are a little more stark and whatnot. And so she, as true bully fashion, when you're jealous of someone for a certain way they look, then that's what you're a certain way they are that you don't have, then you pick on them. And
it's not that
like, so she picks on her weight.
It's not that Prudence isn't beautiful. It's that her face is always set in resting bitch face. And so she appears more harsh.
Angry bitch face.
Is what I would say. It's not that she's not beautiful. It's that she has a very harsh look on her face all the time, which I don't particularly find. But when she starts being kinder,
she doesn't come off beautiful because she opens her mouth and she's not nice. Just like with Cressida. Cressida is beautiful.
Yes,
but
the actress who plays her
opens her mouth and she acts in a way that is ugly.
Mm-hmm. And
Penelope is beautiful because she is just light and joy and positivity and kindness and happiness and all the good.
Yes. And it's not actually until the season that I realized just how beautiful, and a lot of people have said this in the comment sections as well. We didn't realize just how beautiful Philippa is. Like, she is a knockout, stunning. Like, she looks like she belongs in,
I think the styling, doing the styling of the 30s, 40s, and 50s,
really suits her.
Really suited her a lot.
Whereas at the premiere of season 3, part 1, I want to say she went kind of Wednesday Addams-y, and it wasn't my favorite look. She's still beautiful, but I love those big, soft, gentle waves on her.
She was super punk rock.
Yeah. But it's
Give her her punk rock moment.
Yeah.
I mean, Kate or Simone wore that dress with the weirdo nipple things. Like, everybody made a choice. one of those premieres. Look at her dress. It's got those curly out nipple things on it.
I'm gonna have to go and assist this now.
Yeah. I saw it in one of the groups. They had a picture of it.
I'm not sure that I'm going to Google Simone Ashley curly nipples. Curly nipples. I don't think that's going to take me to where I want it to on the internet. And on that note, let's talk about some other nipples. Colin visits brothel. Good segue.
Oh, that's hilarious. Well, we talked about the brothels.
The thing that I just wanted to point out was just how notable clocks are in so many seasons. And it's a constant reminder. And even as he's kissing the girls and it's no longer looking at the clock, it's still tick, 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 tick. You are losing time. You are wasting time.
Well, and since, in the last pod episode, for us, it was the same day. For you guys, it'll be a week apart. But we read the book and we talked about how his first kisses, the kisses he'd experienced, were very mechanical. They were just lips, just tongue, just nothing behind it. His kiss with Penelope was a kiss because, and we talked about it before, you can see he is absolutely playing a playbook. Turn to her, kiss her. It's like a tennis match almost. Like, squeeze here, kiss there. So it's very mechanical, and it's not, when he's with Penelope, he's lost.
Well, and he was learning that everything he thought he'd ever known about kissing was rubbish. Everything else had been mere lips and tongue and soft murmured but meaningless words. This was a kiss. There was something in the fact that he knew it was for her. And that is the difference. The thing that he's doing with these girls is mechanical. It is meaningless. Like, it is what is expected of him, and he's just playing his part. Put this here, do that there. This happens at the end.
And that's exactly it. One is playing a part, playing the role his brothers have played, and he's watched them play it, and they expect him to do the same thing. And he's actually being praised for it, getting all these admirers that he doesn't care about. And then Penelope is real, real,
and that's
genuine.
That's why I think they placed the brothel scene right before he goes and meets Penelope at the markets, because it is
talking about how they met. Yes,
yeah, and I think it's showing that he's still, if he just committed to this fully and just committed to Penelope fully and it isn't trying to still meet the needs of society. And if he just went outside the bounds of society like he ends up doing, this could have all just...
It's his double standard. Because everything he's telling her at the market, he needs to be looking in a looking glass and telling himself. Yeah. He's telling her that this is what he's doing. He's telling her that this is what he's learned, but has he? Has he?
No, it's all fake.
No.
And then we've got all the fakeness that he's spilling out at the markets at Penelope. And I mean, it's not fakeness. Like when he's talking about their connection and the way that they met as children.
Talking about the living for others is a trap and all of that. He is preaching, but he is not following his own advice, his own words.
Yeah. And then our next scene we jump to is the absolute opposite of fake. We have Will Mondrich and Alice Mondrich in their beds separately, looking at the empty space beside them and just feeling this absolute loneliness without their partner beside them. And that's what Colin is feeling at the moment in the entirety of the season. Is he is metaphorically looking over next to him in bed, and he has that loneliness, he has that emptiness without his partner, who he knows he only gets to see, that he's lost without her.
And I just, with the candlelight and how they're looking all sad and stuff, all I could think about was back in the day. Do you remember An American Tale with Bible?
I've never heard of it. No, I've never heard
cartoon.
Of it.
Oh my gosh, find it. Your son will love it. But there's a song in it called Somewhere Out There, and it's like, somewhere out there beneath the pale moonlight. Like all I could think about was the two of them being separate from each other. I'll add it to the Bridgerton soundtrack thing so you can go listen to it, because it's seriously like totally like we're separated, but we know each other's out there. We're looking at the same moon, like we're looking at the same stars in the sky.
Alice and Will at this moment are really mimicking what we're seeing with Colin and Penelope. They are too afraid to go and sleep next to each other because they are afraid.
Society says you can't do it.
Yeah, society says you can't do it. And if we break the rules, we are going to get kicked out of society because we're not fit to be here. And we know we're not fit to be here. So we just need to mind our step so that we do not get kicked out. Colin is afraid that if he makes this big jump, that he's just like, he can muse about it. He can think about it. He can make steps towards it. But the second he makes the jump and he gets turned down, that's it. That's him done. But if he just plays the game, he doesn't get shut down. He doesn't have that final rejection, that final loss of her. But the second that he takes the leap,
there's so much. His fear is rejection for sure. Yeah. Like he's everything he wants to do, every way he wants to act throughout up until the carriage when he finally, he's so moved to do it. He's down on his knees. Every moment that you can see it on his face, like what he wants to do versus what he is doing, he is battling within himself between what society expects, what he knows her mother expects, what he believes she expects or wants. Like everything is about everyone else. And if he doesn't do this dance exactly perfect, he potentially will lose her as a friend. Mm-hmm. He may not be able to bring her into the family because he knows Antony's going to have an opinion about it. And usually his opinions about Colin are condescending and negative. And Eloise and her are not friends. And how in the world is he going to bring her into the family to be Eloise's sister when their relationship is completely severed? Like there's so much there. And how is he going to be? He knows he's toast. He's burnt. There's no way he will be able to show his face at another function she's at. Look at how suffered and tortured he is at Stowell House, watching her with Debling. Like, and at not the Constellation Ball, what's the other one where they're separated in episode 3? Hawkins Ball. Like, he's dying. Like, he's physically dying, it looks like. And he's suffering.
Not a hyperbole at all.
Not a hyperbole. Okay. He's suffering. He's like, she's like, I could die tomorrow. He's like, you're not going to die. He's will.
Like, I'm going to die tomorrow.
I'm going to die instead. Like, if I can't have you, I'm going to die. And literally he's suffering so much that I really do believe if it went south, and it almost did, she freaked out and was like,
this is kind of Benedict's book as well. It didn't happen, but Sophie has the thought of, if I'm your mistress, you still have to marry, and I'm going to have to spend the rest of my life watching you be married to someone else, and that will kill me.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, I think that because book 3 was book 3 and this is season 3, that there's a lot of trope that played out, because we also saw the Cinderella vibe with the two sisters. I think a lot of Benedict's book is what got written, because when you farm out your writing to various different people and you say you're on the third season of a book series that's about siblings, I mean, how much detail did you really give them? How many of those writers picked up Benedict's book thinking that because it's it's season 3, it's book 3? Like, I don't know the behind the scenes, but that's how I felt. Like, the way the writing has been so choppy this season, and how different. I mean, I don't know what happened. Don't exactly know. And I know Jess Brownell talked about having a writer's room and talking through everything, but they just talked through treatments. Like, she didn't write the script. She wrote the script for episode where she got credited, at least. So I don't want to say too much. I don't know exactly, and I don't want to put my foot in it, but it just feels that way. It feels like, here's your treatment for this episode, and somebody got confused, because there's a lot of Benedict's book woven into this as Colin's story, as Colin and Penelope's arc. So I do think we're probably going to see a lot of Colin and Penelope's book play out as Benedict.
All right. So
not specific scenes, theming, and inner monologue kind of stuff, like how things play out.
Our next 2 scenes that we get take place at Madame Delacroix's. First off, we have Alice going to visit the next morning after she wakes up lonely from her husband, and she goes, and yet again, she is still afraid to make any missteps in society. And so she takes all the, I think, 30 gowns, she says, that she needs to have altered that belonged to Lady Kent. I'm like, Lady Duke, that's not right.
I saw you like digging in your brain for it. I'll give it to you.
Hello, anyone there? Home?
Well, your eyes move. It's like, and that's why I always watch Colin's eyes, and you can tell when he's thinking through something, like he's got to retrace his steps because a plan isn't going the way. Like when she says we need to be apart for a while, and he's like, "Ooh, of course," but watch his eyes; they're like the
words that he's saying.
He is retracing his plan. Like, okay, I've got to backtrack. How do I get back to where I want to get?
But why? So
the lessons you said.
Alice is chatting with Madame Delacroix, and she's having the dresses refitted. And Madame Delacroix, although she's not titled, she's not in society, but she spends so much time around society that I kind of put her up there with the Queen, with Penelope, or Lady Whistledown, as in she knows everything that goes on. Like, nowadays, it would be a woman's hairdresser. Like, you hear the conversations, you see everything going, you see all the chitter chatter. And I think that's a space where people think, oh, well, I'm with a servant, so I can talk freely. Madame Delacroix is actually quite astute. She is quite intelligent, and she's kind of trying to gently guide Alice in society. But I think Alice at this point is still too nervous to heed the words that she's saying. And I want to read this little...
I think we also understand, because Penelope and Colin are spending time together, but Penelope has no other avenue to really observe or be close to them up to the point where they are at the first, the celestial ball or whatever. So all of the information that she has written about them thus far, she got from Madame Delacroix, because Madame Delacroix is her business partner. So you can actually see how Genevieve contributes and how close they've gotten, that she's actually using a lot of information she gets from Genevieve at this point.
And I can see why a lot of people have Genevieve as like a favorite side character, or even a favorite character, because and I say this, and we talked about this off screen the other day, people who make a huge contribution with the limited time that they have on screen, and yet they do so much with it, if you're paying attention. The advice that Madame Delacroix gives to Alice in this moment is, she is saying that, yes, you are new to society, and yes, I understand that you want to not change too many things, but society will eat you alive if you come in these old season clothing, trying to fit in when you're not making an effort. Like, this isn't making an effort to fit in. Making an effort to fit in would be keeping up appearance. Madame Delacroix says, the ton feeds on the nouveau, and it gets ill-tempered when it is hungry. But she says it in a much sexier accent, and I cannot do a French accent, and I'm not even going to try, because it'll come out like croissant. But in this moment, I actually did not know what nouveau meant. And so I looked it up, because if I didn't know what it meant, I'm sure there are plenty of other people who were in the same boat as me. So I will do the research for you. Nouveau comes from the term nouveau riche.
Riche.
Thanks. Well, it's rich.
Nouveau
Rich people. Rich people.
It's
Come
rich. On. It's rich people, but it's new.
Riche.
The newly rich.
Nouveau riche. People who have recently acquired wealth, typically those perceived as ostentatious or lacking in good taste. AKA, who else do we always see these two families pitted? And it's always the Featheringtons and the Mondrichs, because Portia thinks that she has earned her place at this point, but she is very garish. She is very ostentatious. She's very lacking in good taste, and the society kind of eats her alive because of that. So Madame Delacroix is trying to very subtly be like, don't be like them. Fit in. Just do what you have to fit in.
I agree there. I also think she's kind of giving advice similarly to Lady Danbury later, that yes, you can fit in. You can follow some of the rules to fit in, i.e. closing the club or whatever. You don't have to follow everything, but you still want to stand out.
Big one.
You still want to stand out though, because they feed on the new. She's saying they feed on the new. You have to give them something. She's telling them, if you don't, you're going to starve them and they're going to come for you anyway.
Yes.
Yeah. So don't starve them. Give them something to talk about. They want something to talk about. Give them something to talk about. Like she's telling them same thing as Danbury. Like, don't hide, have a ball. It's the same advice. It's just given it from a working class to working class, because they're on the same level still there, because she's trying to help a girl out. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Next we have Violet, Francesca, and Eloise walking into Madame Delacroix. And Eloise is lamenting that, hey, thank you so much for taking Mama off my hands. She is now so focused on you. She's given up on me. And if you just hold out for another few seasons, I don't even have to get married at all. Like I can just, she's just like trying to tiptoe her way to spinsterhood so she can just avoid it. Because once she hits spinsterhood, she's done. She's good. She's in the clear. She doesn't have to marry. And that's, I think, what her ultimate goal is just to creep her way to spinsterhood without her mum interfering. And so she's like trying to like, come on, do me a favor. Don't get married off. And Francesca's like, sorry to disappoint you, but getting married is the one thing in the season that I'm actually. So upon learning that, but Francesca says like, I need to get married off before Mama gets the queen involved in meddling, because once she's involved, like, well, I'm done for. And so this is when Eloise gets other debutantes involved. So I love that Eloise is like now playing the game against the Mamas. Like first we had Francesca kind of managing Violet, but now we've got Eloise getting on board with it. And she goes up to Miss Hardigan and Miss Malhotra.
So you have the meddlers that are meddling with the kids, and now you have the kid meddlers that are managing the mama.
The apprentice has become the master.
Yeah, they're using the tactics against the meddlers. It's hilarious.
Yeah. And so they spread the news that the queen is still looking for a diamond, because Eloise knows that if she tells Miss Hardigan and Miss Malhotra, especially Miss Hardigan, who is a gossip, who lives for the gossip, that it is going to spread through the Don and the debutantes quicker than anything. And she knows that the debutantes
grease lightning.
Like grease lightning.
Sorry, I'm so ADHDing bad today.
And it means that the debutantes are going to basically swarm the queen and hopefully avoid Francesca's attention.
Yep.
We are up to BCGH. That's a mouthful. Before Colin goes home. So we have Benedict, Colin, Gregory, and Hyacinth playing cards together. Now, Patty, I can't even remember if we did talk about this in the previous pod episode. I'm sure we have, but we're going to reiterate it, because if we haven't,
the plan?
The plan, Mr. Barons.
And actually, I brought up Unhinged Casey in the last. Okay, so shout out to Unhinged Casey, and we wanted to bring it up because it is part of this episode, and it is something that I've been saying, and I find like there was somebody else out there who's not part of our Facebook group or anything like that. It's just a creator on TikTok, and she acknowledged the same thing I've been saying. Like, Colin had a plan. And we know Colin had a plan because everything he does, everything he's planned is elaborate. There's elaborate steps to it. And you see it the most in the drawing room scene, because he had to make sure it was a day that his mother and sisters were out. He had to make sure it was a day that he sends a letter. How's he getting his missives? How's he getting his instructions to Penelope except through Ray? Again, Ray's a plant.
And not not the bushy kind.
Not the plant in the square. He planted her there. That's fanfic joke. But how's he getting his stuff to her without Portia seeing it, letters and things like that? Because they just come in the front door. But everything, he had to get everything to fit into place. He had to get anybody who was in the house occupied. He had the servants in on it because Footman dude is standing there with her, so she's not alone in the house until he shows up, and then he bolt. Then there's lemonade prepared already on the table in the drawing room.
This just reminds me of a girl getting ready for a date and she's happy and she's getting, okay, I'll set this up here and I've got to move it. No, the chair's not quite right there. I'm just going to move it over an inch. Like he had everything perfectly lined up.
Lined up.
We have never ever seen, and I do not think that this is even proper in those times, for a man to host. Men do not host.
No, jeez. You have to go to the woman's house. You have to call on the woman at her house for her parents to be present. So him bringing her to his house, him planning all of this out, like there's a lot of steps, a lot of pegs, a lot of those pins and yarn and post-it notes for him to have this all fall into place.
Every strategy that the siblings play in the game.
Yep. No hesitation. I play a long game. He has a strategy. All plays into, you've got to really watch this whole next scene because you are going to see that Colin has a strategy. He has a long game. He is absolutely not hesitating.
Yep.
He wants what he wants and he's going after it. And this is no holds barred. It's kind of like he tried a little bit, then he tried a little bit more, and now he's putting all eggs in one basket. Like he's just pouring it on. Like this is it. This is his almost last ditch effort. He knows there's a ball that night. He wants her to say words to him before they end up at the ball. Now, I think his plan was he wants her to go and he wants her to be confident. He wants her to talk to someone. He wants to boost her spirits and whatever. But his plan was to swoop in, ask her to dance, and then maybe they speak words in the drawing room.
I think
she practices flirting with him.
I think his plan was just to help her to be comfortable in her own skin the way that she made him comfortable in her own skin. He wanted to give that back to her, not at all to find her a husband. He wanted
he did not. Yeah, he did. He crushed her and he knew it. He knew he crushed her spirit. He crushed her confidence. Look, think of how confident she was in season 2. What he was seeing, what he was falling for was her confidence. When she talked about her purpose and everything, she was super confident. When she walked down the stairs with him and he's talking about his investments, how confident she was. And he clocked her being insecure about what? Her loyalty. And he calls it out there. He watched her be confident. And then her dancing with him, they're dancing together. She says he's special, very confident. And then he comes back and she is just crushed and destroyed. He did that. So this is his Marina moment where he has a chance to fix something he screwed up. And that's what he's trying to do. But he came home to court her and to marry her. He came home to a very crushed and insecure Penelope that he caused. So he had to fix that first, just like he's trying to fix her and Eloise's friendship. He's got to fix all this stuff so it gets back to the way it was so that he can start from there and propose and everything. So he thinks this drawing room scene is going to be, I'm going to remind her, we're going to play act. We're going to remember what our relationship was before society happened. And he's recreating a ball where he wants her to say nice things to him again. And he can say nice things to her. Very reminiscent of the Featherington ball the season before. He's trying to give her a core memory that's different than the one that crushed her.
Yeah.
So we wanted to talk about this is absolutely a plan. He has a plan. It gets derailed. Eloise comes home, but I think he still gets some information that he wants and he can still move forward. The real wrench he throws in everything because he's impulsive is he tries to include Eloise into some information, which I kind of think is a kind of a hearken to the book of him thinking that Eloise is Lady Whistledown in the book. I think he throws this out thinking if she's Lady Whistledown, she'll publish it tomorrow that Penelope, Colin Bridgerton have been alone together. That's what I think he was hoping would get out there, that they're courting. And he thought maybe Eloise was so busy navigating their mama that she hadn't noticed anything. And he saw really how scared Penelope was when it was Eloise there, and he didn't want her being uncomfortable. So he had to change his plan. So I think that was a moment where he's like, well, if Eloise is Lady Whistledown, she didn't admit to it last year when the queen thought she was, but if she is, I'll give her this information, but then it gets spread around the ball.
Yeah. And I think, and then in our final kind of scene change for our episode today, not for the episode, but we've got one last scene that we want to briefly discuss and then continue on our next episode talking about the Celestial, because a lot that transpires there. The last scene that we want to discuss is Eloise comes home, interrupts the scene, Colin and Penelope, and as Penelope is leaving, Eloise clocks her coming, out of the house, and you have a moment where they both pause and they both look at each other, and it is this absolute look of like platonic longing for each other. And then Eloise is like, no, I can't do it. And she breaks the look. She turns, walks up the stairs, completely Penelope. But I think we can see the whole time, we can see all through these episodes that Eloise is still heartbroken to not have her best friend, like her soulmate, by her side. And going through the marriage season, like Penelope had a whole year of going through the marriage mark with that Eloise. And now Eloise is to repeat season 1 for Penelope and realize how mindless it is for a girl who values intelligence and knowledge and wisdom and reading and all the rest of it to be put into a system that only value your marriageability.
Yes. Her and Colin both, like, they are living what they put Penelope through.
And I think Eloise had to go through.
And I think unknowingly, like, and I don't think it's what they put Penelope through per se. I think it's what Penelope went through without their knowledge of being without them, if that makes sense. That's a poor sentence. But what Penelope went through, holding on to secrets she had, not being able to confide in them, not having them in that full-on relationship with her, what she was living through, they're living through. They're getting their karma moment where they're having to learn this person that has always been their safe space for them, this person that has always given them love and light and forgiveness and understanding and all these great, amazing things that Penelope has given them. They are now living without it, and they are seeing what it's like.
Well, and Eloise still has Cressida and all the debutantes. And even though she has to fake her way through it, I think faking your way through it is still better than just sitting on the outskirts on your own constantly. But Eloise still feels on her own because there is no one on her intellectual level with her now. So she's not getting the full extent.
And she still spends because she doesn't want to dance and she doesn't want to participate. Yeah. She still spends a lot of her life on the wall. She's very similar.
Well, look at her when Cressida's finally alone. She's like, oh, finally, I got a moment alone with you. Like, you're finally unoccupied and I can talk to you. Like, she's bored out of her mind.
And you see her just walking up to groups of people. Like, if they're managing to talk about something she's okay with talking about, great. But when they're talking about marriage and all that, she just turns around like, nope, I ain't got it in me. I don't have enough spoons for this.
She's like, I don't have cutlery, let alone spoons. She's like,
I cannot do this. And so that moment, this is the first time that they have met up in public, or met up that was not in public, that was in a place that they are very familiar with each other in. How many times has Penelope gone in and out of that door? Mm-hmm. How many times have, even the one time in season 2, like, she showed up for their walk and Eloise had forgotten about it, but she's not surprised to see Penelope there. She just doesn't remember why she's there. So just this moment of them looking at each other, like, that was real longing and yearning.
Eloise should have clocked the fact that Penelope was there. What was Penelope doing at the house alone with? It wasn't what was Penelope doing there. She didn't even think about the aspect of her being alone.
Well, and Eloise, because Eloise already views Penelope as a sister, she has from day one. She doesn't, and because family, siblings can write to each other. That's why I think it's important to note. I just said this to Steph. She doesn't think anything of Penelope and Colin writing each other because in her mind they're already family. So it doesn't get mentioned in season 2, and she's the only one who knows. So nobody has any clue that they're doing this thing. And Portia and the girls don't believe that Penelope's actually writing Colin, that she's writing it, but I don't think she thinks they're being sent.
Whenever anyone shares any knowledge about Colin, Penelope pretends to not already know it, because she downplays to the public or to anyone else who's not Colin how much she knows about him.
Right. And I think that in this moment where Penelope's in the house, there's only one other person she really would be seeing. She already knows it's Colin, and that's why she's quiet in the carriage. And that's why, he's like, something's wrong. I've got to know what's wrong.
To be completely honest, if Violet was in the house, then it could have been plausible for Violet to be calling upon Penelope, being like, hey, what is going on between you two? You need to sort it out. But obviously because Violet was with
But they were together. Yeah.
But I'm saying if Violet was in the house, then it would have been plausible.
But there's no in the book, but there's not we don't see a true camaraderie relationship between her and Violet, like the book, where she is just openly invited to tea all the time. Like she goes to tea more than just on Sundays in the book.
Yeah.
And she's friends with everyone. And you don't kind of see that. So I don't think that Violet would have invited her over to ask about the friendship. It surprises me, though, that Violet never mentions Penelope this whole season until it's about Colin. She doesn't ask. She doesn't try and find out what happened. She doesn't try and ask. She just is like, I don't know what's up with Eloise. She assumes it's Eloise's problem.
It's Eloise's problem.
Kind of is. But doesn't understand why she's hanging out with Cressida. But she just is so trying to give Eloise her space because she almost lost her to be ostracized from society, that she doesn't want to rock the boat. And I think that's why the friendship, all that wasn't discussed by Violet. But it does bother me that she's not clocking that friendship. Like she's clocking Colin's trajectory of feelings for Penelope, and she's feeling something for her son, like empathy for him and what he's going through. She never does that in regards to Eloise and Penelope at all.
I think we will dig into that kind of thought pattern on a future episode, or even on a character analysis at some point. So for today, gentle listeners, we will leave it there and continue on next week's episode, where we discuss the Celestial Ball side stories. If you have anything in particular you would like us to cover, or any Bridgerton knowledge you would like to share, please head to our Facebook page, The Ladies Bridgerton. And if you are enjoying our podcast, please remember to click the follow button on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you are listening. Once again, thank you for listening to the musings of two mad women. Yours truly, Touch the Kiwi. And this is Lady Patty.